Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys our first impressions of the new albums from Necrowretch, Enterprise Earth, and Striker. So I'd say a pretty diverse day for metal today.
Yeah, for sure.
And let's kick it off with Swords of Dajjal by Necrowretch. This is a band that I haven't really checked out before. I've heard the name, and I know that's a familiar name. Never checked them out, so I didn't know what to expect. Like, I went in blind. I'm like, okay, we're checking these guys out. I don't know what they sound like. So I put it on, and I'm like, okay, this is like an old school black metal band with a good mix. Because a lot of the old school stuff, the mix was not so great. But this sounds pretty good for that. And one just, I guess, side note, this band has some of the best album arts I have ever seen.
I know they're good, but
they look so cool.
they are. They're unique too.
They're unique. The new one looks really cool, but it's weaker by comparison to the others. And that's just to mention how good the others are. You know, like this one's cool, the others are even better. But as for the sound of the album, the first half was kind of feeling to me just kind of like stuff. Like stuff was going on.
Good stuff or bad stuff?
It was just like it's not like I disliked it, but it didn't feel like anything was really jumping out as like, check this one out. Ooh, what about that song? It's just like, okay, just kind of like the black metal stuff. But then I started to have some notes come around in the second half of the album or so. At the end of the Fifth Door and D. Maori, there were some cool, like, soft moments that kind of closed out each of those songs. But it kind of made me wonder, like, why wait to the end of the song to do that when you can start integrating those maybe as an intro, maybe even in the middle, just so that these songs start jumping out with more body, as opposed to just like, well, it's got this cool outro.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And the title track is definitely one that stood out to me. It's got this slower groove, and a triple time feel, and the riff is simple, but I like it. I'm a sucker for like all this semitone and half step motion and riffs. Very simple, but
Effective.
For me, effective.
Yeah.
You know,
I like that too. It's good.
Yeah, I assume for a lot of people that's effective. And in the middle of that track, they've got this, and I feel like I like the descriptive word that I wrote with this. This riff is diabolical.
Ooh.
It's a diabolical riff.
Which song was that?
In the middle, I believe, still the title track.
Okay.
And it has the guitar solo, like, with that riff. I dug that.
Nice.
So I was kind of thinking to myself, is this the kind of album that's just taking some time for me to adjust? Because, you know, I checked out a little bit of other stuff today before this album, right? So my ears were coming fresh off that Persephone EP, which is a prog EP, to go to this.
Bit of a drastic change there.
It's a bit of a jump, so I'm just wondering, did it take half the album for me to adjust, or is it just the second half is just stronger?
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
And I felt that Numidian Knowledge, like, kind of low-key reminded me of Behemoth, which was, you know, it was hard to really pinpoint, but I listened to it, and I'm just thinking, I can kind of see, like, Behemoth playing something like this.
Yeah, I didn't get Behemoth vibes, but Numidian Knowledge was definitely a highlight of this album for me. This is track 5, so it's kind of in the middle. Well, it's 8 tracks long, so yeah, I guess middle-ish. But the intro on this song I thought was really cool, and there's lots of pounding on the floor toms on this song. Just gives it a really nice, full and powerful sound. And I thought that stood out. I thought it gave it a lot of, you mentioned the word body earlier, I thought it gave that song and the album a bit more body. But yeah, this is black metal through and through, maybe like black and death metal, maybe you can kind of put in a genre like that. I did check this band out before and thought they were cool. I feel like overall it just sounds kind of like basic black metal, but it's enjoyable in a genre that can sometimes feel tired.
True.
Right? It can sometimes feel tired.
That's a good point.
I liked track number 1, which I think was a single they released. It's called Khazar al-Kufar. And I thought it was a good opener. I thought it just like sets the tone, you know, gives you a feel for what's to come. Does a good job at that. Another song that I thought was good was the last track, Total Obliteration, was really cool. About a third of the way through, it just gets nasty. And I'm just like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. The bass is very thick and prominent. Just very like, you know, it's like rattling my speakers kind of thing, right? The bass hits. And I'm talking string bass, not kick bass, but either way. Overall, though, I enjoyed it, man. I thought it was pretty good. I'll definitely check it out more. I'll definitely listen to it more. I think there might be more there to unpack and discover. So I think a good album from Necrowretch today.
That's good. Let's talk about what's probably the biggest release of the day. This is Death, an Anthology by Enterprise Earth.
Okay.
I think I mentioned this was one of my most looked forward to albums for this year when we did our end of year video.
Because we reacted to 3 songs and they were all bangers.
We reacted to, multiple songs, and they were all awesome. Even, I remember I had some reservations about King of Ruination because it sounded too much like Rational Gaze by Meshuggah, and even though it does, it's still a really good song outside of that. Like, it doesn't completely ruin everything. I kind of found this is still a good song. It's just, it sounds just like this Meshuggah song. And I kind of thought to myself, okay, you could see a lot of that influence there. There's actually another moment on this album that I totally found reminded me of something I already heard. It was the rhythm at the 1 minute 15 mark of Face of Fear. It's when I heard it, I'm I know I've heard this before, and then I figured it was the title track from I Let It In and It Took Everything by Loathe. At the 156 mark, the riff they play there, it just sounds like the same thing, and I'm just I've heard this already. But regardless of that, Face of Fear is still a really good track. The clean vocals that show up in the middle are really, really nice. Rad solo section. And I guess that's one thing to bring up is that just straight up cleans I feel might be new for this band. Because if I recall correctly, The Chosen, which was their last album, which is on our 2 Toe Tags list.
Yep.
Sick album. It had melodic screams.
I don't remember exactly, but I don't think it had straight up clean vocals.
Not straight up clean. But we have that on this record. So that is one of the hallmarks of what I like to see as this band's evolution.
That's right.
I feel this album is this band evolving into something new because it doesn't sound anything like the last record, and I love that.
I think it sounds like it in ways, but you can tell that they're pulling stuff out of their back pocket. You can tell that they're trying to be inventive and creative.
Exactly. It's a different vibe than the last record. It doesn't make me feel this is just kind of the same thing as the other one. No, this is a brand new experience from this band.
Yeah.
And one funny thing about Face of Fear, I guess if we're still on the topic of that song, to me listening to it, I'm this kind of reminds me of Periphery. But you know what?
It's got a progressive nature to it.
It makes sense because this band has been pulling a lot from prog and I guess by extension gent kind of stuff for this record.
Yep.
So it makes sense to hear those comparisons to Meshuggah, to Loathe, to Periphery, and that it makes sense that way, right? So to have prog deathcore, that's honestly a sick combo. We've been seeing a lot of successful deathcore bands reinventing themselves by creating genre hybrids like that.
Yep.
This is one that has not really been explored that much.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Or maybe not that well either.
Or it's, I think these guys are kind of pioneering that in a sense. The Reaper Servant is another track that we reacted to. It's just, I love how it starts with a thrash solo. Just right out the gate, just explodes. I love the shot that God is not here.
Yeah.
That's sick as hell. Awesome stuff. But I do want to mention a song that we didn't check out, or that didn't get a video. Spineless. I love that this song slowly grows into this big monster track. They kind of put the pieces together as it goes, adding more and more until you get the full band and the full thing going on. That's super duper awesome. They kick it up to speed at the 2 minute mark. That's super duper cool. Another song I guess I'll mention, because I got a ton of notes for this album, but just another one I want to mention before I hand the floor to Vile, is Accelerated Demise. Is this crazy instrumental. Everyone gets a solo. There are drum solos, bass solos, guitar solos. They are all trading with each other. This is straight up what you would see in a jazz jam. A jazz band jamming.
But it doesn't sound like jazz though. Just that kind of
the idea of them
camaraderie of that.
Trading solos between each other and giving everyone solo sections like that is exactly what you'd see out of a jazz band. And I love that. That's amazing. I'm that's so cool. So it's when I first heard the first drum solo, I'm what the fuck? I wasn't ready for this. and then a bass solo, like, wow, this is awesome. And like that on top of everything else that this album provides, it's such a just widely diverse album. And that's what we were thinking of after checking out all the music videos they were dropping last year. We're like, all these songs sound so different from each other. Will they blend together? And they do, and it provides for just an album with just tons of depth.
Yeah, just continuing off with Accelerated Demise. It's track number 9, and yeah, it's probably one of the best instrumentals I've heard in a very long time. It's just so fucking good. I mean, you took a lot of the words out of my mouth in the notes I had about the solo sections and the trades between the solo sections.
So cool.
One interesting thing that I noticed about it that you didn't say is that it also has a bit of a country twang to it. Like, especially in the intro, if you listen to it, there's a bit of a twang.
Yeah.
A bit of a twang to the intro. And it's just one of those songs that just immediately goes in the playlist because it's just that fucking good. Worth checking out the album for that song alone, I think. But I have notes all over. This album was just full of stuff that was jumping out at me and making me go, wow, that's really cool. I really like that. That's really awesome. I want to try to talk about some songs that maybe you didn't touch on. I Divine, track number 7. This is a good track. A couple parts that I liked was this open air double bass roll. By open air, I usually mean everything else is quiet and it's just that's all you hear. That's what I mean when I say open air. I don't even know if that's an actual term, but that's how I call it, like open air snare shots, open air double bass rolls. Always cool. Anyways, I thought the track, it ended with a nice acoustic guitar as well, which was kind of a nice little touch. The track right after that, Malevolent Force, another sick song. It starts with this ominous didgeridoo, just like, yeah, just super ominous, just building hype, building atmosphere. Then you get this tribal chant with drums that comes in. It's just building. And then it just kicks in like crazy energy, crazy tempo. They break it up for the chorus. It's got a lot of stuff going on. It mellows out in the middle, then gets crazy again at the end. It's just, it's a wacky track. It's all over the place, but very still cohesive, very tight still.
Yeah.
Right? And I love that.
That track is one of 4 tracks on this album that have vocal features.
There was a lot of vocal features on this album. Yeah, from whatever.
This one is Wes from Alluvial, and I think this one was probably my favorite because it's very, very clear when he's singing, and he just sounds really good.
Yeah. Another interesting thing I found was Blood and Teeth, track number 10. It starts kind of like a ballad.
Yeah, dude.
It starts kind of like a ballad, then the riff kicks in.
I heard that and I'm like, wow, they're going for real ballad on this? That's bold.
So for a deathcore band, I mean, obviously they're going to sound like deathcore. We mentioned their progressive nature. We mentioned the clean vocals in there. We mentioned the gent style in there. But this song to me was very metalcore. Like, just had metalcore all over it. Yeah. And also, it almost sounded a bit emo, and I'm usually like not a fan of emo stuff, but the fact that it's the only song in this album that sounds like this, I feel like it's fine. I feel like that kind of in a way gives it a pass. And it's not that prominent either. I thought it was a great song. And yeah, other than that, man, great riffs. The breakdowns are on point. The guitar solos are fucking mint. The features are nice. Good grooves. I mean, this album had everything going for it.
Yeah, it was. They really delivered with this one.
Yeah.
So we're going to end this off with Ultra Power by Striker.
Canadian boys.
Canadian band based out of Edmonton, which is pretty cool. And I didn't know anything about this band before today. It's another one that I went in completely blind. Like, you mentioned Striker, I'm like, okay, we'll check out Striker. Mm-hmm. And wow, there was not much left of my face because they melted it off with this album.
Wow.
The way that it starts, like, super awesome riff. The vocals on a very first impression kind of reminded me of Bruce Dickinson.
Okay.
Not a one-to-one, but I got a bit of the vibe there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Circle of Evil, fun hook, rad riffs. I'm like, this is just like supercharged heavy metal at its finest, and I loved that. In a sense, the vibe was kind of reminding me of like Beast in Black in their prime, and by in their prime I mean their first album, which is like them at their best.
Yeah,
kind of like reminded me of the energy that Berserker had. Reminded me of the energy that Gamma Bomb had with the album Bats that we checked out last year.
Yep.
And yeah, I think it's the kind of album that whenever a song would start, it would be a completely new experience. I did not know what to expect, and they'd throw another left turn at me. Give It All opens with a saxophone.
Yeah.
Like, there's sax all over that song. Like, oh, okay, that's okay, cool for
Sexy sax.
this one. And also with the sax solo. Blood Magic starts with this like Western country vibe.
Yep.
They got a vibra slap in there. And then they kick into this like rad D beat, and I'm like, what this is crazy, all over the place in a good way. So I feel like the album was just kind of doing that over and over and over. City Calling starts out with like a total focus on the bass line. That sounded super awesome, great bass tone as well. It was just like a super awesome, fun album, and I was not expecting. I didn't know what to expect because I went in blind, but I just didn't expect like, wow, this is a sick, awesome album.
Yeah, I think calling it fun is a very accurate.
Yes.
I mean, I knew about this band. I knew they were a Canadian heavy metal band, but I wasn't that familiar with them. So I went back and listened to their 2018 album, Play to Win, and just fucking loved it. Like, it's just awesome riffs, great solos, great vocals, just feel good classic metal. And this album is more of that. Just all around great riffs, solos, great vocal performance, fun songs, anthemic, stuff you can sing along to. You mentioned Give It All with the saxophone. I thought that was a great track, a highlight for me. Track number 9, Thunderdome, I thought was also a great song. Awesome solo in that song. Brawl at the Pub, track number 11, the last track. Again, a song called Brawl at the Pub. You know it's going to be fun, right? Great solos. The highlight for me overall, though, was Best of the Best of the Best, which is track number 2. I couldn't turn my speakers up loud enough. This song is just so fun. It's anthemic. You want to sing along with it. Even the first time hearing it, you just know when the chorus is on. You heard it for the first time, and it comes on the second time, you're singing with it. Just right then, right there, it's happening. Probably amazing to see live. Just so much good energy. And, you know, it's kind of like a Steel Panther kind of thing. I get that vibe with it, but it's just not perverted, I guess.
I mean, you know, I remember like opening up this band's page before I put on the album, and I saw them. I'm like, okay, they kind of give me like a over-the-top kind of Steel Panther or like Electric Callboy vibe. Okay. That kind of thing, you know, like Total Party. And then I put it on, I'm like, oh, this is like awesome heavy metal, and these guys are like having a great party or whatever.
Yeah, for people that like super heavy stuff, like if you're into like slam and stuff like that, this might not be the thing for you, but anybody that likes, you know, any type of classic metal or just straight up good metal, this is like, I mean, you can't go wrong with this album.
As opposed to bad metal?
Ultra Power. I mean, just, yeah, I guess.
Either way, great album. I think it's easy to enjoy by many.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a tough decision for what we're gonna review this week, but we did talk it over, we did discuss, and even though Ultra Power is awesome, we decided to go with Death and Anthology by Enterprise Earth as the album we're going to review for the week. But
it's just too strong.
It's just, there's so much depth, there's so much going on. But you know what? Hopefully, if we can get the chance, maybe we'll still review Ultra Power at another time. You can hope for that. We'll just see what's in the cards.
Yep.
But anyway, guys, that's all we got for you today. We are going to listen to Death and Anthology over and over and over for an entire week, and then we'll be back next week to give you guys our final review of that album. Anyway, guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below of today's new releases. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say, and subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
And I'm Vile Self.
And keep the horns up.